He's a name well known globally, garnering recognition from his former series called To Catch a Predator. We're talking about Chris Hansen, who has now started his own network, TruBlu, and his new series is Takedown with Chris Hansen. Chris came to Livingston Parish and teamed up with the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office and Sheriff Jason Ard in February. Over a 3-day period, 11 separate predators were caught trying to lure children online. One of them was in a police academy to become an officer, trying to get someone he thought was a 14-year-old girl. Another was a cafeteria worker in a school in Baton Rouge. We sit down with Chris Hansen one-on-one and the sheriff on this takedown. I'm Kiran Chawla, and this is Louisiana Unfiltered. Welcome back, everyone. This week we are joined by my good friend Jim Chapman. Jim, this episode it's interesting because you live and work in Livingston Parish, and now we've got a man who is globally known to catch predators coming to Livingston Parish.
Yeah. Chris Hansen is a very well-known figure in the true crime space. He has been around for over 30 years catching predators, which is a pretty amazing stint. And it was really unbelievable, almost surreal to meet him in person and watch him do what he does with Takedown, which is an amazing series, by the way.
And Jim, I mean, he kind of gained recognition from his former series, To Catch a Predator, that started in 2004.
100%.
So that's really where he became Chris Hansen.
It is definitely where he became a household name, for sure.
And back then, that was a show that almost a lot of people watched.
Yeah.
And it was one of those that if you saw Chris Hansen, your day just got really, 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 really bad.
Yeah. And there were some points during this team up, if you will, with the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office where the predators actually recognized Chris Hansen when he walked out. He has that famous moniker, "Have a seat." Mm-hmm. When he walked out and said that to them, they knew right off, I'm in trouble.
Yep. So let's get straight to it. So what we did is a 3-day period. Chris Hansen and his entire team came down and teamed up with the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office and Sheriff Jason Ard. However, all 11 of these people, Jim, were not from Livingston Parish.
Correct. As a matter of fact, the majority of them were from outside the parish and, of course, contacting what they thought was a 14-year-old girl in most cases that was a decoy that was used to lure these men, in this case, into what you would call, I don't know if you call it a safe house or how you would term it, but a house that was set up via the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office to lure these guys in and catch them in the act.
And that's sad. And the sad thing is that...
sad and scary.
Sad and scary because there are so many social networks out there, social medias out there, websites out there that a lot of parents don't even know about. Back in the day, and that's what my interview with Chris Hansen talked about, that there was MySpace. Now there is no MySpace now, but there are probably 50 others out there that are being used to men talking to kids, but then you have gaming.
Yeah, that is a really big problem.
Yes, that you would never think that your child is playing a game on a computer or on TV or whatnot, and in reality, they're actually talking to someone. So that was the entire purpose of why they did what they did. But instead of the 14-year-old girl, it was deputies or it was Chris Hansen. And In fact, why don't we do this? Let's go ahead and play the interview with Chris Hansen first, and then let's talk about it.
What brings you to Livingston Parish?
Well, we came in this morning for the Sheriff's prayer breakfast and to talk about the sting operation that we did a month ago, where along with the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office, we went undercover, and 11 men were arrested in the sting who were attempting to sexually exploit a child. And they were men from all walks of life, some involved in the school districts and some involved in, one fellow was actually in the police academy in New Orleans for a time. People from various businesses all had gone online, had a conversation, an illicit conversation with a law enforcement decoy posing as a child, and came over to a location to try to exploit that child. And instead, they met the sheriff's office and me and my crew. Through a combination of reporting on some different stories that had some occurrences in Livingston Parish and through some connections through law enforcement, I had heard that Sheriff Ard and his team had conducted one of these investigations. And as I frequently do with law enforcement agencies around the country, I reach out and try to embed and try to tell the stories of different law enforcement agencies around the country who do these investigations and take part in the investigations. And the hope is by exposing these people, by holding them accountable, by trying to get inside their minds and understand how the mind of a predator works, we can better understand how to protect ourselves from predators of all types. But in this case, to sort of educate parents and children and create a dialogue and awareness that maybe doesn't exist the way it should.
So I guess educate me. Talk to me. If a parent is watching this right now, what are the biggest takeaways?
Well, I think you have to have a conversation that's age appropriate the moment your child has access to the internet. When I was growing up, the advice was don't talk to strangers. Great advice then, great advice today. The problem today is the guy who's a stranger on Wednesday is so adept at grooming your child, he's not a stranger by Friday. And kids oftentimes are adventurous, they're curious. And the predators know this, and they can play on the vulnerabilities that every child has, every teen has. And so parents need to say, look, if you're approached online by somebody who makes you uncomfortable, or if you're tricked, or if you're influenced in a bad way, you can come to me and we'll sort this out. We'll work together. We've got a big documentary underway on sextortion, where criminals from half a world away are posing as young women, enticing boys to send them illicit photos. And then they extort these children. And some of these guys, these kids, are great kids who just get tricked, end up committing suicide. And it's a horrible, tragic occurrence. And if they had just talked to their parents, and these are good kids in good homes with good parents, but if the parents just knew to somehow get involved in this at the right time and say, look, your world is not ending. It's going to be okay. In 2 weeks, nobody's even going to talk about this. Grandma's not going to know. Just let it ride out. And parents can go to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and they can get advice on how to scrub some of these pictures and these events off the web so that the children don't have to live with this exploitation.
I'm a reporter, so I understand there's a reason we do what we do. Why do you do this?
Well, I do it because it's important. I do it because, I have the access to law enforcement after 42 years of reporting in this space. And I have a unique skill set, I suppose, that allows me to have this access and to use it to, educate people. But at the end of the day, the reason why I do it is to continue to expose the people committing these crimes. When we started this particular franchise 20 years ago, I figured we'd do it 2 or 3 times. Who's going to show up? 20 years later, 21 years this month, these guys are still showing up. So what does that tell you? This isn't going away. When we started these investigations, we merely had decoys in chat rooms on AOL and Yahoo. Maybe that thing you might remember called MySpace. Well, today, the number of social media platforms upon which adults can approach children has exploded. I can't even keep up with it. My team can't even keep up with it. Law enforcement can't keep up with it. So I think it's important work to do. We do reporting in a lot of different areas, but this is something that I don't see us ending anytime soon. If young people see these shows, hopefully some of this sticks with them and makes them smarter and safer online. And this is not just, predators are preying on children. There are predators out there preying on elderly citizens in financial scams. We work on those stories too. So the mindset of a predator is pretty much the same when you're talking about people who try to exploit children and people who try to exploit the elderly. It's the same mindset. And so the more we can expose this, I think the safer we can make people.
You've been doing this across the country. I guess rank Livingston Parish in the last month.
Well, I think it was a very successful investigation. You're talking about 11 men in 3 days. I think here in Livingston Parish, there's a very sophisticated sheriff's office that has made this a priority. And not every law enforcement agency has the resources and the ability to do this. And so we work with agencies like Livingston Parish, Genesee County in Michigan, Polk County in Florida, Blount County in Alabama, Montgomery County in Ohio, all over the country. And what we found is even the agencies who have less manpower, less experience in this field, we find agencies with more experience coming in and helping them do this. Because if a law enforcement agency isn't doing this work, they're merely allowing agencies who are to push the problem into their community. Everybody needs to be doing this. Now, you can't do it every day. And depending on the size of the agency, you may do it once a year, twice a year, 4 times a year. But at least you're sending that message out. At least you're creating some deterrence. And at least there's a sense that if you try this in my parish, you're going to face justice swiftly.
When will these make air?
One has already dropped on my streaming crime network, TruBlu, which is TRUBLU. Watch TruBlu.com for details. And the rest will be coming out over the next several weeks.
And how many episodes do we have?
11 episodes from Livingston Parish. And they probably won't air all back to back. We'll probably mix them in with some of the other law enforcement agencies. But, over the next couple months, they'll all be dropped. It was a real pleasure to work with Livingston Parish. Sheriff Ard and his team are superbly professional, and it's always energizing to me to take on a new partner in this endeavor, and to work with men and women who are so passionate about this particular sort of investigation. It was a pleasure to do this.
So Jim, he kind of explained the breakdown of this, and to me, one of the ones that he discussed was a guy who had actually enrolled in a police academy.
Yeah, in New Orleans.
In New Orleans. But to me, and number one, that alone is worrisome. You've got somebody who wants to be a police officer. Obviously, this arrest is going to not allow him to be a police officer. But what the case that Chris explained was that he sent numerous Ubers. So he's in New Orleans. He thinks he's talking to a 14-year-old here in Livingston Parish. Well, a 14-year-old can't drive.
Right.
In order to get that girl to him, he needs to get her an Uber maybe.
Yeah. And
he sent a few different Ubers. But that's scary.
Yeah, and it really shows you the depths that these predators will go through to get to these children. There's not a whole lot of limit there for them on what they'll do. Very concerning. Trusted someone that, and he wasn't an actual officer, so
no.
There was something that occurred somewhere. Maybe they figured it out that, obviously this guy has issues if he's doing things like this. But in one case, it was an East Baton Rouge Parish school worker, a cafeteria worker, as a matter of fact, that showed up at the house to meet a 14-year-old girl. And this is someone that interacts with 14-year-old girls every day. How scary is that?
And the sad thing is that we're supposed to say allegedly.
Yeah.
Because you're innocent until proven guilty. But the fact that you allegedly showed up at a house to meet who you thought was a 14-year-old girl.
Mm-hmm. On camera.
On camera.
Or did deny.
Yep. Yep.
And that is really another aspect of what they're doing with Takedown is not only are you getting this problem and really putting a microscope on it, but you're also providing evidence. Think about it. Someone shows up at a house. Yeah. Chris Hansen sits down with them. And in a lot of cases, as a matter of fact, the majority of the ones that I've seen, these people admit that's what they were trying to do. So now you have it on video that this person's saying, yep, I knew she was 14. And you have a full text conversation, which he reads, that is absolutely disgusting, where they are flirting with these 14-year-olds, getting very vulgar. Some of this stuff is very vulgar, very descriptive. But I think the point that they were trying to make here, especially focusing on what these people do for a living, cafeteria work. They had a Sonic worker. They had the guy that had apparently applied to be a police officer in New Orleans that went through the training. They focus on those because they're trying to alleviate the perception that it's a certain individual that does this. It's not a certain individual. It could be your next door neighbor.
That's very true. I mean, think about it. Your child goes to a school. You think that's a safe place. And then they're going to eat. Even if they take their own lunch, you still have to go to the cafeteria and eat. Meanwhile, at least you know that your child is actually being scoped out. Absolutely.
And obviously, the vast majority of these workers at these schools are great people that would never enter their mind. And schools do take a lot of precautions in order to kind of weed out people that they might feel would be a risk in that respect. Yep. But 11 people over 3 days, you could not...
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
To me, the biggest takeaway from my interviews with both the sheriff and Chris was that for the parents out there, that with the way technology has advanced, and Jim, you're a dad.
Yeah.
And as a parent, did you know all the things that you need to be looking out for?
I was aware of the possibility of these things, but let me tell you, I had a similar situation in my household with that. You know, you really have to pay attention. And I'm definitely more of a strict parent than probably most. I mean, I was the guy that, you know, sleepovers didn't happen a whole lot with my kids. And it wasn't that I didn't trust the other parents. That's the way we operated our household. That being said, there was a time where we found some phone numbers on a cell bill we did not recognize from another state, and a guy was pretending to be a kid and texting with my daughter.
Oh.
She was 14 years old. Yeah. That didn't go over too good for him. So it happens. It happens no matter. We did, but we could have caught it too late. And yes, we were perceptive parents that went over that phone bill. And the second we saw something we didn't recognize, it was grilling. My daughter assumed she was talking to a kid. You know, this is just a kid that I met while playing these games on an app of some sort, and just an innocent app, a kid's app. It was not a kid. And so those things can occur even to parents that take what they feel like are the most precautions they can possibly take. Short of taking that cell phone away, it can happen.
And times have changed so much that I know I'm only 21, but when I was in high school, we didn't have cell phones. Yeah. I mean, they were coming in towards the latter part. Not everyone had it. Now every child has a phone, and you don't wait till you're in high school to get a phone. You have a phone probably in, 6th, 7th grade in case a parent needs to get in touch with you on, I'm finished with practice at, I don't know, baseball.
It is normal parts of society now. It is.
Well, but having this phone in your hands is also a bad thing because now you're texting anybody and everybody. And yes, Jim, there are people out there who say, well, the kids have changed also. They're a kid.
Right.
You're an adult.
Yeah.
It is your responsibility to know right from wrong.
100%. And educate your kids. Don't be scared to sit them down and say, hey, look, they got bad people in this
Yes.
world that have the worst of intentions with you. And this is what you need to watch out for. This is what is not acceptable as far as communication is concerned. I think education is kind of where it starts now. We've all been kids, we've all been young, and that's just mom and dad being overprotective. And most kids, that's what's going to cross their mind. But at least they're cognizant that there's a possibility of that. These predators are not stupid in a lot of cases. They make stupid decisions, but a lot of them are not dumb people. They figure out ways. They figure out very innovative ways to communicate with kids. Words with Friends, when it came out, was huge for communications between these predators and kids. They play Scrabble with them. It's Words with Friends, right? And there's a little message button on there, and that's how they would communicate. And these were people from all over the world that nobody was familiar with. You hit a button and it sets you up to play someone. And that's how the start of that began. Now, the Roblox of the world and all these sorts of games, every one of them has a message function where you can communicate with people you don't know. You don't know how old they are. They might be telling you they're a 14-year-old guy or a 13-year-old. No, you don't. And when you're a 14-year-old girl, you don't even think an adult would think that way.
And if I am that adult talking to a 14-year-old, all I got to do is Google a 14-year-old picture.
Yep.
And send that and say, look, this is who I am.
That's
How
right.
does that person know who this 14-year-old is?
They don't.
If I just went to a park around town and took a picture of a 14-year-old or from anywhere, grabbed a picture.
Yeah.
But to me, Jim, the biggest and most important part of this interview was, what do parents need to take away?
Yeah.
In fact, let's take a listen to my interview with Sheriff Jason Ard, because that was one of the most important things I asked of him.
Okay, Sheriff, how did all this come about?
Well, it actually started whenever we ventured off into partnering up with our Attorney General, Liz Merle. We had some of her crew with the ICAC task force came and visited me about coming on to their program. And it kind of helps to have field detectives that are familiar with it. And I actually had one approach me and one of my captains, and we joined the task force and started getting training and learning a lot about how this networking, if you want to call it that, is working, and these predators that are out there seeking our children. And we just kind of started jumping off into it, and that was about 1.5 years ago. I had actually one investigator, and today I have 3. That's how fast it grew. It's very important to me, and I know it's very important in my community. And again, you don't really, even as a parent, you don't really know what's out there until you kind of get involved in it a little bit more. And so we have a lot of other ways that we are, arresting people, and a lot of that is victim-based. But this is a more proactive. This is us undercover going in, posing as 14, 11-year-olds or whatever it may be, and seeking these predators who are seeking their prey. And unfortunately for them, they're coming across us. And we're able to stop that before they actually get a victim. So I would much rather us be the victims than a 12-year-old little girl or a 14-year-old little boy.
Now, this is not just or is it even child pornography, or is this more so preying on kids online?
This is preying on kids online. Online. This is gaming, Snapchat, any social media platform that has a chatting capability. You're going to have predators on there. And a lot of times us as parents don't realize that. We are not educating ourselves enough. We even started an actual grooming curriculum to go and teach these parents through the school system and partner with our school system here in Livingston to educate them. And look, I've been in law enforcement here 32 years. And I have learned so much that you think you know everything and you don't. There's so much out there that is eye-opening to this, and you can't, and every day is a different day. So it was great to move forward on this, to watch this division grow so fast, to watch the investigators have the passion they have, to go in and seek this out. This is a very special investigator to have to be able to do this type of stuff. This is a lot. But to watch them work and to watch them do the things that they're doing by seeking these predators online, is amazing in itself.
How big of a problem is it in Livingston Parish?
So we arrested in this one sting operation. We'll make sure everybody's clear on this. We did arrest 11 people, okay? 11 individuals arrested. Only 2 of those were from Livingston Parish. We're online. This is not to our local Livingston Parish chatting group. This is nationwide. I know we have personally worked cases all the way in Utah, where somebody in Utah was seeking a individual here in our parish. We're protecting Livingston Parish children. And we have a lot of other agencies through the AG's office that are online with this. They work with us hand in hand in their areas as well. Chris said it earlier, it's a networking thing. A lot of agencies are doing this, no matter how big or how small. But it's something we all need to do. So the way I look at it is, if you come from East Baton Rouge over to Livingston after one of my children, you're going to go to jail. I don't care where you're from, stay away from us. And I'm hoping that everybody gets on board, because my mission is to get them out of Livingston Parish. I don't want them to come back in here seeking any child. And you know, does that make it bad for our surrounding parishes? Maybe so, until they get on board with us and they do the same thing. And that's what we're hoping for. And it's again, it's a very scary world online. Very scary.
So say someone is arrested out in Utah or something along those lines that's not in Livingston Parish. They're still coming to Livingston Parish to be booked here, which is why it helps to be associated with the Attorney General's office, because it's a task force.
Let's look at this one case that y'all talked about earlier. The master from New Orleans sent 4 Uber drivers to try to get this young girl. 4 to get her from Livingston to New Orleans. Do you really think that we'd have seen that little girl again? No, absolutely not. I can tell you one thing, he better not mess with another little girl from Livingston Parish. And that's the message that I'm trying to send.
So this may be more of a district attorney question, but you guys have done your job. We see it over and over and over. Bond is set, they're released, they're back out there. That's
right. And we have actually partnered with our Scott Pearlus, who is my district attorney. We had an actual conversation just the other day. He is actually going to assign an ADA to particularly work in these cases. It's going to help us to have better prosecution, and that's what our hope is.
Any message to parents?
Big message to parents. Know what your child is doing. Open up a good line of communication with your child, and always expect the worst. You have to. And there's so many times in our livelihood, and you know this, we're busy. We have things going on, and we expect our kids to be doing great. We expect our kids to know that that's a stranger, don't talk to them, but it's just not like that anymore. We open up a whole new world with social media platforms and this gaming and all the stuff that they're doing in chat rooms. And they may be thinking they're talking to another 14-year-old boy, which is actually a 39-year-old person who is a predator trying to groom them to get them to a point where he can extort them. And that goes on every single day. 11 people, Kiran, 11 people were arrested in 3 days. That is scary. And parents, it's time for us to open our eyes, put our phones down, and pay attention to what your child is doing. Because we just had I think it was several cases we worked, but I know that was one stat that we had was over 45 victims that we was able to identify that was unknown to law enforcement or their parents. 45 victims. That's big. And that's super scary to know that many, and some of those were raped and their parents never knew it.
If there is a victim out there, if there is a parent who feels or suspects that their child may be a victim, what do they need to do?
They need to contact us. We have resources that we can help them. And again, we want to make sure that, that's just so much on a child. It really is. But we want to reach out to the sheriff's office. Call your local authority. Call the AG's office. They have a great program as well. And do what you can as a parent and get up in your kid's business. That's what you need to be doing every day, and expect the worst. That online predators are real.
So some very important takeaways for parents, and we can't stress it enough. I mean, you just gave a prime example that a parent, it's what's the phrase we say, that you should always have plenty of tools in your toolbox, even if you don't need them. This is how I kind of associate this with, that as a parent, you need to know this is out there.
And you need to be vigilant. As the sheriff said in that interview, as parents, you have to have those conversations. Be nosy with your kids. There's a lot of technology out there now, parental controls, things like that. Take advantage of those. Use them, learn about them. I know technology is vast now, and a lot of, especially maybe the 40 to 50-year-old crowd, isn't as caught up with that technology as the 20 to 40 crowd, but learn it. Because there are a lot of things you'll probably realize as far as the access to your children that you didn't realize prior to educating yourself on these communications they're having.
And Jim, I'll even go as far as to say it could mean the difference between life and death.
Absolutely.
The sheriff kind of leaned to that about this interview with the guy who was in the police academy, that he kept on sending Ubers. And in fact, this came out of both interviews, that one of the Uber drivers, because think about it, the Uber driver is showing up and it's police at the house. So he's probably saying, well, wait, I have nothing to do with this. I thought I'm just coming to pick up somebody.
Yeah.
So the Uber driver wanted to cooperate. So he actually called the I don't know the guy's name, but the dude who was in the Predator.
Yeah.
And so he calls him and says, hey, this is a young girl. She's only 14. I don't think I should be bringing this person. So he basically canceled that Uber and ordered another one. So now you can't sit here and say, oh, I didn't know she was 14. And I believe he said that in the show. And obviously when these shows make air, you'll see this. But he tried to claim, well, I didn't know she was 14. And Chris Hansen came back with, you had an Uber driver call you and say she was a young girl.
Yeah.
So you can't come back and say you didn't know. You knew. You just kept on and on and on and kept trying. And Sheriff Ard basically said that had there actually been a 14-year-old, and had she been transported to New Orleans, what's the likelihood of that girl coming back?
Yeah. And he said it, 0. Probably 0. It was 2 or 3 of these guys that were undocumented. So if they disappear with a child, or a 14-year-old for that matter, there's no tracing those guys.
No.
This happened.
Yeah.
Right here in Livingston Parish, Louisiana.
And if it's happening in Livingston Parish, it's happening in all of our areas. It's happening next door to you. Again, this is not a scare tactic. We're not trying to scare parents out there. We're really hoping that, and it's not just a parent.
Educate parents is what we're doing.
But Jim, it's not just a parent. It takes a village to raise one child. So if you've got kids coming over to your house and something seems off, maybe do the right thing and tell that mom or tell that dad or tell somebody.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'll stress, and I mean, again, as a reporter, I have covered some extremely heinous crimes. Watch where your kids are going as far as staying over. I kind of like you said, you were strict in that sense. I remember growing up, my mom and dad always made it a point that whoever you want to spend the night with, they can come to our house.
Yeah.
They didn't want me going to them.
Yeah.
And yeah, the child in me did not understand that. The child in me was like, oh, why? My parents are they're not cool. You do. But now I look back, Jim, and it's like, thank God. Thank God my mom and dad actually did that, because, yeah, I trust my parents with my life. But if something's happening, it would happen in my own home.
Yeah. And that was then. Imagine now with the technology, what it is now, the ability not only to communicate with kids, but also to see their location. When these kids are on Snapchat and they're talking to someone and they don't know who they are,
okay,
they can see exactly where they're at on a map.
Makes sense.
If those communication services are on.
Good tip. Another good tip.
There are apps out there like 360, Home 360 or whatever it is, where parents can, you have to be linked on that account in order to share locations. Certainly, I would recommend that. But you don't want your child to be playing a game and somebody see their location. That's scary.
That is scary.
And it's almost on every game you play. You can share that.
So some of these predators, Jim, were actually from Tangipahoa Parish. Some were from across state lines.
Yeah.
But again, that's how easy it is, because if you have one of these in your hands, or a computer, state lines means nothing.
Means nothing.
Not only state lines, even globally. You can be talking to somebody in Europe.
Yeah.
And they fly in with hopes of trying to meet you.
Yeah. I've seen an episode that Chris Hansen did on Takedown where a guy came from 250 miles away to meet with a kid and had bondage equipment in his vehicle. Yeah, they're sick. When you operate like that and you have those kinds of thoughts, there's not a whole lot of limits to what you'll do to get to a child.
No,
it's scary.
It is. And at the end of the day, you called it the right word, sick.
It's sick.
And now, so let's go further, Jim. Sheriff's office makes the arrest. Chris Hansen has it all on video. And in fact, he walked away with 11 episodes recorded on TruBlu. Those are all going to periodically be coming out. Yes, they're not going to be 11 episodes straight. They're going to mesh them in with probably other cities that they go to.
Yeah.
But over time, you will see 11 episodes. So you can watch those on TruBlu. But those 11 were recorded with the help of the sheriff's office here in Livingston Parish.
Yeah, they were. And shout out to LPSO, Sheriff Jason Hord and his team. They really, if you watch these episodes, the first two are actually playing right now on TruBlu. If you watch these episodes, you can see how professionally this was done. There were a couple of scenarios where these guys ran and
they were caught.
And they were caught quick.
Very quick. Very quick.
They didn't get very far.
Nope.
And look, I was proud of them.
Flip-flops falling off.
Yeah, flip-flops flying and everything. And so it was something. It's actually entertaining to watch. It's a very well put together production. And but very proud of Livingston Parish for getting on the forefront of that. Chris Hansen hooking up with Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office and taking 11 of these guys off the street.
So let's move further, though. You have the Sheriff's Office who makes the arrests. You have Chris Hansen who's pretty much catching it all happening. But after that, the case needs to be prosecuted.
Right.
So this is where Scott Parental, who's the district attorney for Livingston Parish, he and Sheriff Ard had a big press conference last year, I believe. And granted, that one was about drugs, that they're not going to tolerate drugs in Livingston Parish. And if they come to the parish, be prepared.
Right.
This one is very similar to that same message, that the prosecutors and the DA, they stand ready to do their job. But it's kind of like what you said. When you have a confession on video, not audio, because audio you could still say, that's not me.
Yeah.
It sounds like me, but it's not me. When you have a video pretty much saying, I did it. I knew they were 14. This is what I wanted. It's
a prosecutor's dream.
Deal. Yeah.
It's, a lot of cases are plea bargain. And it's sad. I cover a lot of true crime cases, and I see it. I see these cases where I'm like, why did they plea bargain this? They had all this evidence. But the fact of the matter is, the more evidence you have, the less these people have at a bargain, a plea bargain. Plea bargains were designed because prosecutors maybe lacked a little bit of, maybe their whole case was circumstantial, which you can get a conviction on a circumstantial case. It's just very hard. But maybe they can get these guys, hey, and instead of life in prison, we'll give you 40 years if you'll agree to do this, because they're worried about convincing an entire jury of someone's guilt. In this case, you couldn't wrap this in a gift any better and hand it to the prosecutor and say, here you go. And I'll tell you what, I haven't seen all 11 of these episodes yet, but the ones I've seen, they admit to it.
Yep. And I'll even add this. I mean, we've spoken to Hiller Moore, who's the district attorney in East Baton Rouge Parish. The truth is, there's so many cases coming in. You have a limited number of prosecutors. So the backlog is so intense that you have to plea some cases out.
Right.
Well, when you go to one of these men and say, listen, I got this, and this against you, so I'll take you to trial. but more than likely you're going to lose. So we can go ahead and call it quits and you accept this plea deal right now, or we take you to trial.
Right. Exactly. And, don't forget that Louisiana and specifically Livingston Parish, which is the first, if I'm not mistaken, the first parish to actually do this, but chemical castration. Now, hopefully that'll do some good with swaying some of these sick individuals from trying to access our youth.
And we even had that prosecutor come on and talk about why he chooses to use chemical castration.
Yeah.
I think it's
It was
been
a great
used
episode.
3 to 4 times here in Livingston Parish alone.
Brad Cassio.
That's who it was, yep. And he's got no shame in his game to use it over and over and over again. But his district
definitely
attorney
doesn't.
also
Tough prosecutor.
allows, very tough prosecutor, but his district attorney signs off on it as well. So the
Scott
message is
Fairley.
very clear in Livingston Parish, and you just heard the sheriff say that in his interview, that that's really the message he wanted out, that don't come picking on kids in Livingston Parish.
I agree 100%. And I could not be more proud of everybody involved in doing this. I think that it puts a national spotlight on what we're doing locally to curb this problem.
Yep. And it also, hopefully, our listeners, if you're a parent or you've got a nephew or a niece or anybody, a neighbor's kid you're just in love with, make sure you kind of equip yourself with some of this knowledge.
Parents can catch it. Just make sure you go behind your kids. And, 9 times out of 10, this won't happen personally to somebody. But you don't want to be that 1 out of 10 that it does. And anything you can do as far as educating yourself will help.
Absolutely. Well, Jim, as always, we appreciate you coming on and
It's always fun
having
sit
this
down
discussion
with
with us. And for those of you who don't already know this, Jim Chapman has many of his own podcasts, from local leaders to the latest one, which has just gone so well for you, is Exposed.
you. Exposed, yeah, that's a fun one.
Yeah,
It's a
so
fun one. If you're a true crime fan, you'd love Exposed for sure. We
Yep.
talk about scandals and things of that nature.
So go take a listen to those. And for our listeners, as always, we appreciate you joining us. Don't forget to leave us your reviews, subscribe, tell your friends and family. And I'll say this again, Jim, I have people who come up and say, we love your podcast. And you know this, that I still get taken aback by that. Like it makes me realize, okay, well, what we're doing is working. So I appreciate y'all's feedback. Keep it coming. And as always, we appreciate you listening, and we will see you on the next episode of Louisiana Unfiltered.